Sky-high demand for COVID vaccines for kids. Bookings in Taipei City sell out in just 15 minutes. It's official. The KMT's Wan-an will run for Taipei mayor. Thousands of leaked police files reveal abuse against China's Uighur Muslims. And saving Taiwan's giant clams from extinction. The government finally gets on board. A warm welcome to TaiwanPlus News. I'm Yin Khvat. Taiwan is rolling out the Pfizer COVID vaccine for children and teenagers on Wednesday. It's being offered to children as young as 5. And as Louise Watt reports, there's a high demand.
Taiwan is now offering the Pfizer-BioNTech COVID-19 vaccine to children as young as 5, and parents have been rushing to sign up. The first 7,000 shots in Taipei were booked up in just 15 minutes.
家长不用担心，这个辉瑞这个儿童疫苗量是够的请大家放心。
Taiwan is in the throes of its worst COVID outbreak, with daily infections in the tens of thousands. Most cases are mild, but the virus has seriously sickened more than a dozen children. 5 children have died, including 4 who developed encephalitis, or brain inflammation.
目前看起来，这些小孩的免疫反应似乎太强了，产生了一个不可控制不好的全身激烈的免疫反应，脑也可能受到伤害。
As Taiwan now learns to live with the virus, there's still a difficult road ahead. Klein Wang and Louise Watt for TaiwanPlus.
Taiwan's largest opposition party, the Kuomintang or KMT, has announced that legislator Jiang Wan-an will run for Taipei mayor in this year's local elections. Jiang is tasked with winning control of Taiwan's capital, which was once an electoral stronghold for the KMT. He is the great-grandson of Chiang Kai-shek, who ruled Taiwan under martial law after the KMT fled communist China in 1949. To learn more about Jiang Wan-an's candidacy in Taipei, our reporter Ed Moon spoke to David Fell, director of the Centre of Taiwan Studies at the University of London. He began by asking him whether his association with the Chiang family would be a help or a hindrance in the election.
I think you're right that it's definitely going to be a factor in this mayoral election. I think having the Jiang name is quite important for name recognition. I think the DPP will try to link him to Chiang Kai-shek in the campaign and link him to Taiwan's record of political persecution under martial law. I would expect Jiang to try and largely steer clear of this topic in his mainstream political campaigning. And I think one of the reasons for this is that he really needs to reach out to those floating voters. I think it should be quite easy for him to hold on to his base, but can he actually reach out to them? And I think that in Jiang's time as a legislator, I think he has tried to do that. I think at times, if I remember correctly, he did take a relatively progressive position on topics such as same-sex marriage.
Can you tell us what importance the role of Taipei mayor has had historically?
The restarting of direct elections for Taipei mayor occurred in 1994, and that was an important moment in Taiwan's democratization, so coming just a couple of years before the direct elections of president. And then after that, essentially, Taipei mayor seemed to become a stepping stone position for president. So Li Donghui, Chen Shui-bian, Ma Ying-jeou all previously served as Taipei mayors before becoming presidents.
Taipei has long been considered a stronghold of the Kuomintang, but it's been now almost a decade since the party had the Taipei mayorship. Do you think the city still leans towards the KMT?
I think that has started to change in the kind of post-Sunflower, post-2014 period. I think a key kind of defeat was losing the Taipei mayoral position to the independent candidate Ko-enter in 2014. And we've seen how the DPP has also become much stronger in Taipei City in recent years. So, for example, in the last parliamentary election, the DPP won half the seats in Taipei. I think one of the reasons for this, that it has been a strong opposition base, has been that Taipei voters tend to be a little bit more, maybe we could say there's more floating voters in Taipei that will vote according to government performance. So at times, I think we find that voting patterns in Taipei can be a little bit different from the rest of Taiwan.
Taiwan's Transitional Justice Commission has overturned convictions of pro-democracy activists from the country's martial law era. Those exonerated include Shi Mingde and Lin Yixiong, two former chairs of the current ruling Democratic Progressive Party, or DPP. The pair were among those arrested over democracy demonstrations in the southern city of Kaohsiung in 1979, the so-called Kaohsiung Incident. The Transitional Justice Committee was formed in 2018. It has now cleared nearly 6,000 people convicted of wrongdoing during the martial law period from 1949 to 1987. It is set to disband at the end of this month with a final report on political repression in Taiwan. North Korea has fired 3 missiles off its east coast. One is thought to be an intercontinental ballistic missile. The launches came hours after US President Joe Biden wrapped up a trip to the region. Earlier this week, he discussed North Korea's nuclear threat with the South Korean President Yoon Suk-yeol. Shortly after the North Korean tests, joint US and South Korean forces launched 2 missiles of their own to show their ability to respond to provocations from Pyongyang. Russian and Chinese strategic bombers flew close to the air defense zones of Japan and South Korea in a joint military exercise on Tuesday. The patrols took place as leaders of the Quad group of nations, Japan, the US, India and Australia, met in Tokyo. Both Japan and South Korea scrambled fighter jets in response. China confirmed the patrols, saying they were part of an annual military exercise. Tokyo has complained to Beijing over the drills, calling them a provocation. Taiwan is banning the trade in 7 species of giant clam to save them from extinction. Conservation groups listed giant clams as a vulnerable species more than 20 years ago, but only parts of Taiwan have preserved them. As Stash Butler reports, it is part of Taiwan's ongoing marine conservation efforts.
This giant clam is known as the Rose of the Sea. Its population is shrinking worldwide because of overfishing, but here in Fushan on Taiwan's east coast, locals have made a protected area to rescue it from extinction.
每个地方也希望可以做这一个动作啦，只是说我们这里可能就是提早发现吧。
Volunteers have been introducing new clams to the area, and almost 90% have survived. The largest has grown to 30 centimeters.
富山里面的砗磲贝的种类其实大概有3种，一种是诺亚砗磲，一种是圆砗磲。那最近还有发现一些小型的鳞砗磲。那这个部分我们在富山的范围里面，其实都有陆陆续发现一些令我们意想不到的物种。
Giant clams are farmed for food, and in many parts of Asia they're seen as a delicacy. But in Taiwan, that will soon change after authorities said they'll make giant clams a protected species. That will make it illegal to trade clams for any use. Taiwan as a whole has been slow to protect giant clams from overfishing, but local efforts like these in Taidong are making sure the species is protected for the future. Chris Ma and Stash Butler for TaiwanPlus.
Taiwan is among the most searched countries on Google Street View, according to a list issued on the 15th anniversary of the service. Taiwan was the 8th most searched country, and Taipei was the 8th most searched city. Taiwanese places that got the most searches included Taipei 101, Taipei Main Station and Bai Sha Tun Gongtian Temple, the center of one of Taiwan's biggest religious processions. Coming up, it's World Otter Day and Taiwan's Eurasian otters are in trouble. But help may be on the way. Details after the break.
Welcome to Jason's Table, Shocked and Surprised. I really love the opportunity to get to share some of the most shocking and surprising but delicious foods here from Taiwan with you folks out there. Do you even know what this is?
These are chicken testicles.
Chicken testicles?
Yeah.
I think you got the surprise. Oh, I heard it first. Do you know what this is?
This is stinky tofu.
Some people say it smells like dirty socks.
I think it's egg.
I think the only way you can achieve that kind of smell, that kind of level, you would probably have to leave it for like a year or so.
So we got a good stinky tofu for you today?
It's great.
2 bowls of soup, which one is the most expensive? In Taiwanese beef noodles, there are different types of broth bases. There is qingdun, which is a clear broth. There is hongsao, which is the soy sauce-based broth, and there's also one that has tomato in there. It's very, very tender, and then it still maintains the characteristics of the fiber of the beef. This bowl of beef noodle soup is $55 US. The most expensive dish on their menu is the $337 US bowl of noodle soup.
It's expensive.
It's expensive. Specialty of Taiwan, it is
珍珠奶茶.
tapioca milk tea or bubble tea or boba. Boba are made from sea cucumber. And actually, in the news, this has been described as the worst food in the world. Jason's Table, Shocked and Surprised, is coming soon on TaiwanPlus.
December and January is eel season here in Taiwan. So these little towns here pop up when the baby eels are caught. So he's going in and we're gonna take a look at how he does this. The waves are a little big today. Oh, Jesus Christ. Let's go take a look and see if we caught any. Oh, there's one. 哇，很难抓，很难抓。哇，他挑得很厉害。
Welcome back. You're watching TaiwanPlus News. An 18-year-old has opened fire at an elementary school in the U.S. state of Texas, killing at least 19 children and 2 teachers. Authorities said his motive was not clear, but that he acted alone and was shot dead by police. It's the deadliest shooting at a U.S. school since the 2012 Sandy Hook massacre that left 26 dead. 20 of them children. The attack has renewed calls for stricter gun control laws.
It's time to turn this pain into action. For every parent, for every citizen of this country, we have to make it clear to every elected official in this country, it's time to act. It's time for those who obstruct or delay or block the common sense gun laws. We need to let you know that we will not forget. We can do so much more. We have to do more.
Thousands of photographs and documents from China's so-called re-education camps in Xinjiang have been leaked to a number of media organizations. The documents include mugshots and case files of ethnic Uyghurs detained in the far western region. The prisoners range in age from 15 to 73 and were interned for reasons such as using a VPN, growing a beard and being related to another detainee. The files also confirm a shoot-to-kill policy for anyone who tried to escape. An anonymous source claims to have hacked into Public Security Bureau computers, downloaded the information, and then passed it on to the US-based Victims of Communism Memorial Foundation. For more on the data leak, our reporter Reinho Kilpatrick spoke to lawyer and human rights advocate Rehan Asat, whose brother has been held in Xinjiang's camps for 6 years. He asked her what makes this leak a watershed moment.
for far too long, often the victims of the Chinese government's concentration camps have become numbers and statistics, but today they have faces, they have names, and they have ages, and that's what we're seeing here. But beyond that, these are two small counties that gives us a rough figure as to how many people are detained in the camps. It does corroborate what has unfolded in the past few years, but in a way that it's like telling a story. Each person, their face, the terror that we can see in their eyes, and the bodyguard standing next to them, exerting state power, all of that tells incredibly powerful story. But in addition to that, what confronts us as consumers of the news is that in some of the pictures, we see the special police unit carrying military assault weapons are deployed to again exert state power over the detainees. And these are innocent people. And I think through their eyes, they are telling stories. And at this point, the international community cannot again say that we didn't know.
One of the details that's being confirmed by this leak is that these centers, which China has long insisted are just voluntary vocational training centers, have a shoot to kill policy. So what kind of a voluntary vocational training center would have a shoot to kill policy if students try to leave?
A lot of details in these pictures, like in addition to the faces of the detainees, like you see, in order to subdue one man, you see at least 8 to 10 or even like 11, 12 police officers, security, highly militarized police officers subduing this man with their baton and all sorts of weapons just to subdue him. I think that is quite telling as to the coercive and torturous nature of these camps. And in addition, I think that the biggest tragedy here is that the prison guards or re-education guards here are given the blessings of the senior officials. First, shoot to kill, and then report later. Nobody is held to account, even if they're just killing somebody who's just too scared and trying to escape from the prison camps.
Scientists are using satellites to detect a significant source of greenhouse gas, the methane burped up by cows. Phil Wang has this report.
Gassy cattle may not be the first thing that comes to mind when talking about climate change, but new satellite images show that burping cows emit so much methane that it can even be detected in space. Cattle farming is a big source of methane, a greenhouse gas 25 times as good at trapping heat as carbon dioxide. Each of the world's 1.4 billion cows can burp out up to 500 liters of methane per day. That's a lot of methane. At last year's UN Climate Summit, over 100 countries agreed to a 30% cut in methane emissions by 2030.
And this is all part of our new methane strategy, which focuses on reducing the largest source of methane emissions while putting thousands of skilled workers on the job all across the United States, and I expect in your countries as well.
But methane emissions from agriculture, like methane from burping cows, is hard to measure. Environmental data firm GHGSat is helping, using a fleet of satellites to monitor methane from space. The company says its high-resolution satellites hundreds of kilometers above the Earth can measure the amount of methane produced by a cattle at a low cost. It says accurate measuring is key to setting methane reduction targets for the beef industry. The company already has 3 satellites monitoring methane emissions in space, and 2 more are on the way. The data goes to the UN's International Methane Emissions Observatory Program, giving experts there a bird's-eye view of how well their campaign to cut methane emissions is going. Asnaya Chow and Phil Wang for TaiwanPlus.
These cute Eurasian otters are from Jinmen Island, their last remaining wild habitat in all of Taiwan. But the Jinmen otters are facing a critical situation. Today is World Otter Day, and our reporter Sandy Chi spoke with Zhang Liao Nianhong, a Taipei Zoo Assistant Research Fellow, about the threats to the animals' survival.
在台湾的话，欧亚水獭 大概已经有30年没有被记录到、观察到了。以前的话，其实在一些低海拔甚至东部的一些地区，都有发现过欧亚水獭的踪迹。在这30年之内，我们就没有看过任何活的水獭的个体。在靠近福建的金门岛的话，还有一个稳定的族群在那边。那这也是目前唯一台湾我们能够看到水獭的地区。
What is its importance in nature, and why do we have to protect them?
水獭的话，在大自然里面是最顶级的掠食者，也就是说，它们的存在就代表了这个生态系有一个完整的状态。如果说一个生态系缺乏这些顶级的掠食者的话，它可能会发生一些失衡的状况，比如说一些生病的个体，它不会被淘汰掉，然后这些传染病就会传给整个族群，造成更大规模的那种死亡或者灭绝。
So what have you done for the animals so far, and what are the challenges that you have faced?
这几年的话，我们就用 DNA， 然后大规模的去监测整个金门岛上水獭的族群的状况。我们其实发现，金门岛虽然说看得到水獭数量很多，它们大部分都是年轻的个体，然后那种年纪比较大，然后是在繁殖年龄，就是可以有繁殖能力的个体，老实讲并不多。这是因为欧亚水獭它有很强烈的领域性。那这种有强烈领域性的动物来讲的话，它们会争夺地盘，也就是说，在金门岛这个不大的地方的话，其实它们可能争夺地盘的情况还蛮严重的。像我们去年就记录到，大概光是记录到有经调个体就超过100只，然后这100只里面的话，其实超过2岁半、3岁，就是它有繁殖能力的个体，大概有不过20-30只左右，然后其他都是年轻的个体。然后这些年轻的个体的话，我们通常追踪1-2年之后，就是说它出现1-2年之后，我们就追踪不到它了。最有可能的情况就是他们跑到别的地方去，因为他们要争地盘，他们只往外跑，并没有新的个体跑进来，他们的血缘可能就会越来越接近，然后血缘越接近的状况下，其实对整个族群长久的发展非常非常不好。所以说，在金门水獭来讲的话，我们其实还蛮担心这些事情的那个潜在的一些影响。
Kung Fu has grown over the last several decades into a worldwide phenomenon, and Taiwan is no exception. We met the head of a local Kung Fu school in New Taipei, who is teaching the techniques his grandfather brought over from China more than 70 years ago.
我的名字叫做韩基祥，我从小学3年级开始学习武术，至今已经30多年的时间了。最早学习武术是因为我发现我的祖父是近代非常著名的武术家。我的祖父名字叫做韩庆堂，他在民国17年的时候是中央国术馆第1届第1名毕业的。因为一开始只是觉得说到了我们第3代没有人练武术，很可惜，所以一直有一个初心，就是想要把爷爷的功夫寻找回来，把它继承下去。拍手腕提右脚，跳。武术当然是它的中心思想，不外乎就是攻防应对。那每一个朝代它一定会有新的一个延伸出来的东西，但是我们在新的延伸之前，必须还是得要掌握原本它所要表达的东西。所以我在寻找爷爷的武术的同时，我发现我也是在寻找什么是国术，什么是中华武术。掌握到这个精髓的时候，我才有资格，才有办法继续去延伸现代我们必须要做的使命。武术到底在练什么？它练的是一种和谐，一种协调，是一种平衡。所以不是说我们要以武降人，我们是以武平和。不管在在教小朋友或者是在教大人，我们都必须把这个平衡、协调、和谐把它掌握到。这会是我这么多年来觉得武术的一个精华是在这个地方。基本上，武德它是一种态度。所以我们不断的跟学生建立一些很重要的观念，就是练拳又叫做改错拳，唯有不断的改正自己的错误，才能够包容世间一切的万物。所以练拳就好像是在照镜子一样，当这个任何一个动作越修越明确的时候，我们的心也会越来越明确，越来越的清净。所以练拳它其实是在修炼我们自己的身心。 是这样。那所以我们上课、下课都会有一个敬礼礼的动作哦。这个动作拱手作揖，这是古时候传下来的。可是到了我们武馆的时候，我们有新的一套说法，握起拳头代表的是力量。握太紧，力量过多，它容易变成是一种暴力，所以我们必须要有另外一只手，五指并拢，扶持着它，代表是宽容的心，要用宽容的心扶持的这一份力量，才是一种包容的精神，这就是我们武德的精神。
A Taiwanese flag has been put back into a scene in the new Top Gun sequel movie, where it features on a bomber jacket worn by leading actor Tom Cruise.
Good morning, aviators. This is your captain speaking.
In the original 1986 Top Gun film, Cruise's character, Captain Maverick, had 4 patches on the back of his jacket, including one showing Taiwan's flag. The flag was removed in a 2019 teaser trailer for the new film, but fans have noticed that it has reappeared in the movie. That's despite the fact that Chinese company Tencent Pictures is a co-financier of the new movie. Thank you for watching TaiwanPlus News. I'm Yin Khvat. Finally today, we leave you with images of spring snow coming down in Denver's Botanic Gardens and snow-covered trees in the Rocky Mountains, Park County. For more stories from Taiwan and around the world, please download the TaiwanPlus app. Stay safe and see you next time.